Good morning. We're here on self-represented family law docket A. I'm Commissioner Dave, and I'll hear him. Have you had any contact with Mr. Gray, Ms. Hanson?
Yes,
No, I
Oh, all right, Ms. Corey, why don't you go ahead?
yes, I've contacted both by telephone and sent out my intake form. I have not yet received it by return from Mr. Gray, but I have received Ms. Hanson. I'll be looking at setting up appointments as soon as I get that intake back from Mr. Gray, and I'm currently reviewing the documents in Odyssey.
Did you indicate to him that I had transferred custody over to Ms. Hanson?
I did, and I believe that the child was returned that day.
So Ms. Hanson's nodding her head. So the child was returned? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, well, I guess we'll put this out so Ms. Corey can do a report, and then what we're likely to look at is assigning primary custody, and then also the other party would have visitation if that's appropriate. So I'm glad that my order of last week was followed through on. How far out do you think we should go, Ms. Corey?
You're looking for enough information to do a temporary order, is that correct?
Yes, let's start with that.
So are you looking for a written interim or?
I think that would be best. I'm assuming we're going to go out 3 to 4 weeks at this point. All right, we'll put this case over then to June 7th. And Ms. Corey, maybe if you could let Mr. Gray know, it would be important for him to be here on that date. All right, let me summarize what we're going to be discussing today. And that is there's 4 contempt motions. 2 of them deal with moving the child without notice. 1 deals with failing to provide a current address. The 4th deals with failing to provide medical, mental health, dental, and school records. And then we're going to revisit the social media account that needed to be taken down. And then finally, we're going to discuss child support. And Mr. Weiss, do you want to go forward?
Sure. Can we hit the social media one first?
You're muted right now, Mr. Weiss.
Are we able to start with the social media one?
Yeah, you can start wherever you want. If you want to take up social media, go ahead.
Okay. We're 60 days past the original motion to have that removed. As of this morning, the videos are still currently up. Yeah, those were ordered to be removed back in 2021. She was given 60 days to get them removed, and they are still currently up.
Yeah, remind me again, what platform is that on?
That would be TikTok, Your Honor.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go through all of these, and then I'm going to hear from Ms. Fellows, and then I'll hear from Ms. Shoemate, and then we'll make some decisions, okay?
Sounds good.
There's 4 contempt order to show causes. What is that?
Yes, that's correct. The first motion was a move from, she had moved from Willamette to Rochester when she had possession of Taylor, and that went against our current court order. That's actually 2 contempts: moving without notifying me, and then removing Taylor out of the school district. She needed permission from the courts to do that. She did not get either one.
When did that occur?
That was 2021, just a little under 2 years ago.
And when did you find out about it?
I found out about it the beginning of 2021, several months after it had happened.
Okay. All right, then your second order to show cause, that deals with another move, right?
Correct. Trying to get all my notes together here. Sorry, excuse me 1 second. At some point, she moved again from Rochester to Willamette. That one she never told me about. I found out due to posts on Facebook. And if you can see in my declaration, there are supporting documents, screenshots of her saying she moved to Kath Lammet, and I never received a notice. She eventually moved to Longview after that and informed me of that one, but she never informed me about moving to Kath Lammet at all. And still to this day, she never informed me of it. Once again, I say I found out through Facebook, on her own Facebook.
All right, then the third one deals with she failed to give you her address. Is that right?
Yes, I'm supposed to get information on her current address. She intentionally left out information so that I would not have her full address, and it made it very difficult to get her served with papers. And the fourth one is I was supposed to have access just to all school and medical records. And when I attempted to receive school records, I was denied. I was not put down as a parent with the school, and I had to jump through loopholes just to get my own personal school records for my own child.
Okay. Your child is currently residing with you. Is that right?
Currently now, yes.
All right. Thank you. All right. I'm going to take up child support after we go through these contempt issues. Anything further you want to say on those issues?
Not at the moment, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Fellows, anything that you would like to say on any of these issues?
Yes, Your Honor. The mom has made these various moves, as the father has pointed out and has filed the contempt motions. They have indeed happened. Mom has not followed the parenting plan with notifying the father about the moves, going through the appropriate paperwork and documentation to get those moves approved. She has not provided the addresses as she is ordered to do through that parenting plan. So those are indeed extreme concerns that mom has not followed through with. The school records, that has been an ongoing issue that the father has tried to get the school records and medical records and any other kind of records of Taylor while she was with her mom. These are important records for the father to have once the custody was changed over to him, so then he could get each of those providers. So the school would have updated records, the medical providers and everybody else would have updated records from anything that had happened prior. So it's important that the mother make sure that any ROIs are signed or anything is provided to these said agencies so the father can gather these records.
Ms. Shoemate, would you like to respond to any of these issues?
Yes, when I moved to Kath Lammet, there was a temporary restraining order, so I didn't give Kyle the address at that time because I was told not to, and then it got dropped a little after with no evidence of the case that was going on. And at that time, they did deny him the school records because of the restraining order that was on him. And I did move to Rochester, and I did message him that I did move. I did not know I had to let the courts know. And for the TikTok, it is removed. Her whole account is removed.
Mr. Weiss indicated he was able to access that video this morning. Do you know how that?
I don't, because I had deleted her whole account.
When was the account removed?
A few weeks ago.
Mr. Weiss, any response that you'd like to make?
Yes. First point is, yes, she did file for a restraining order. 2, it was never approved at any point. Therefore, she had no reason to move. My second point is she knew 100% she had to get orders from the court. She was served with the same parenting plan I was. She signed it as well as I. She knew better than that. And the fourth one, I can physically show you on my phone that video is still up, and it is under the name Carissa Shoemate.
On these contempt motions, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to fill out these orders at a later time, just because we have a lot to get to today. So there were contempt motions that have been labeled 1 of 4, 2 of 4. 1 of 4, I'm going to deny because it's remote in time. 2 of 4, I'm going to grant because that is more recent and there is a requirement to contact the parent, even if there was a protection order. I think it's important that the parents be notified of where the children are moving. 3 of 4, I'm going to grant because there was a address, but not the apartment number, and that would have been difficult to determine where Ms. Shoemate was residing. 4 of 4, I'm going to defer for the moment and put this over 2 weeks. And the reason is if Ms. Shoemate provides all of the information that's requested, the physician names, the treatment providers, and also contacts them to release that information. If all that's done in 2 weeks, then I will consider that she's purged whatever contempt there was on number 4, and I will not find contempt on that issue. But I want to give her an opportunity to do that and determine what's going on. I'm going to do the same thing on the social media. I'm going to enter an order today that the TikTok account for the daughter be taken down. Ms. Shoemate has indicated that it was taken down. Mr. Weiss, if you've got evidence that you can provide to the court that it has not been taken down in the form of screenshots or something like that, then file that. And if that appears, say tomorrow or later, then I will find a contempt on the social media issue, and there will be additional sanctions on that. Okay, so I'll do, let me just write a note here. Let me go to your child support order, Mr. Weiss. I just want to get to the number here. Your order says $309.95. Is that what you're asking for today?
Based on current information that I have, yes.
Okay. Ms. Shoemate, any response to the request for child support?
Yeah, you had told me to file my pay stub, which I have. You should have it because I can't afford that with $16 an hour.
Okay, well, what I did, you gave me pay stubs that were $16 an hour and you had worked, I believe, 28 hours. We consider that being underemployed. And so we usually assume somebody can work at least 32 hours. So I factored in $16 an hour at 32 hours. That's $21.50 a month. That's just slightly over what your pay stub showed. And when I ran the calculations, it actually came to more than the $309 that Mr. Shoemate is asking for. So based on that, I am going to enter the child support order that he has presented.
May I add one thing, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Are we able to do anything about medical costs, out-of-pocket medical costs for Taylor? I have about $800 worth of out-of-pocket medical costs that I believe she should be helping me with. Can we do anything about that?
Well, those are usually shared on a pro rata basis based on income. So you may need to do the worksheet over again, showing her income at $21.50 and your income at what you showed to determine that percentage. And then she would owe you the percentage that her income represents. And okay. I would first, I guess, write her and say, and give her the bills and say, you owe me so much. And if that's not paid within a reasonable time, then you can bring that to the court.
Your Honor, she is also on state medical through me.
Your Honor, I understand she's on state medical through her mom. However, once again, I do not have access to that information. And second of all, the only way I am able to use state medical is if I drive my daughter up into Washington for her medical appointments. Her doctor is down here. I'm miles away from the state lines. I'm not going to drive up to Washington every single time. I've got her own medical coverage. Her doctor's down here. Her counselor's down here. I'd like to keep it that way.
All right. Well, that, first of all, the state medical information needs to be given.
Your Honor, I've given him a picture of her insurance card.
Okay, good. then the issue about whether she should be using state medical versus what Mr. Weiss is requesting to do, that's something that would come up at the time of the hearing to pay the uninsured medical expenses.
Sounds good. So I just take our incomes, I figure out her percentage based off the income.
Right.
Instead of doing a split 50-50, it would just be whatever percentage it comes out to be based off the incomes.
Yes.
Understand.
You're, I'm signing your child support worksheet, but you're going to need to redo it. The percentages, well, you'll need to calculate those percentages based on the income that I gave
Your
you.
Honor, I believe that we're also here for kind of a review of the phone calls.
Okay. Have you been aware of how those have been going, Ms. Fellows?
Yes, I believe a couple of them have happened. The first one went pretty good. The second one wasn't so good. My understanding is that mom was only on the phone for maybe a few minutes and then handed it off to her sister and then never came back onto the phone. So that is obviously a concern that she's not, these are supposed to be phone calls between mom and Taylor. There is also a little bit of a concern of, I believe there should be a certain day and time established, which will help out with scheduling issues. So like Tuesday at 7 o'clock or something like that. So that way everybody knows when the phone call should happen. And so lives just aren't holding, waiting for this phone call to happen. And a window of maybe like
10-15 minutes. If mom hasn't initiated the call, then dad can kind of go about his business. There was something about mom wanting to go see Taylor at a gymnastics tournament or gymnastics thing, and really kind of pushed dad about that. But because her visitation is supposed to be supervised, that didn't happen. So just wanted to let the court know that.
All right. Ms. Shumate, do you want to address the phone call issue?
Yes, I do actually. When I was talking to my daughter, she had asked her dad to talk to my sister, and he was on speakerphone, and he had said yes. And she was telling me about her gymnastics competition, and she wanted me to go. I said you would have to ask your dad because I don't think I'm allowed to. And he said in the background, I could hear him, that he doesn't know when time he would have to get the time and where.
Do you think we need to establish a set date, day and time for the phone visits?
Your Honor, when we first talked, when I asked the last court date, I asked him during the week, and he ignored me until Saturday, and I got to talk to her like that Saturday morning. And then the next Saturday, I didn't get to talk to her until 9 o'clock at night. And I asked him during the day, texted him, when can I talk to her? And I didn't hear anything until she called me about 9 o'clock.
Okay. Mr. Weiss, do you want to address the phone calls?
Yep. The phone calls happened on the things they did because there's been no established set time schedule. And number two, I'm in a place on the weekends where I have zero reception until I get home that night. So I didn't get any messages or phone calls till around 9 o'clock that night. And that's when I allowed the phone call to happen. But yes, I do agree there needs to be a set time scheduled.
What's convenient for you, sir?
Saturday mornings, 9 a.m., 10 a.m.
All right. You just said that you're out of range of the cell phone on Saturday. Is that later in the day?
Yes, that would be later in the day, and I can hold off on that until the phone call happens.
Okay. Ms. Shumate, and I'm open to hearing what's convenient for you, but let's start with, would Saturday at 10 work for you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's make the phone call Saturday at 10. And Ms. Shumate will initiate those calls. Okay. All right. Let's take up the other issues on the 17th when we come back. All right. This is a request for a restraining order. Thank you. I typically will place the parties under oath. So Ms. Kennedy, do you want to raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in these proceedings?
Yes.
Okay. You're asking for a temporary restraining order, and can you tell the court why you're asking for that?
This is I'm going to say like a continuation of a restraining order. We had one previously, and once that expired, in February of this year, Mr. Hannah started to reach back out to via social media. My daughter initially told them, "We don't want, I don't want to hear from you." He doesn't even know.
Ms. Kennedy, you're breaking up a bit. I think you might need to move closer to the mic so that we don't get that problem. Go ahead.
Is this better?
Yeah, try from there.
Okay, so I'll kind of go back, I guess. Once our first restraining order had expired, Mr. Hannah and his current girlfriend, who we do not know, started reaching out to my daughter via social media. My daughter initially said, "I don't know you, please don't contact me." It continued. So then I reached out to the girlfriend and said, "Hey, we don't know you, please don't do this, just stop," which then turned into her harassment towards me from the girlfriend. She'd call my phone at like 3:30 in the morning, 1:30 in the morning. I'd get random messages that didn't make sense. So I'm not sure if it was Mr. Hannah using that social media because I have him personally blocked, or if it was in fact the girlfriend. Then after that, my daughter was on a vacation with Mr. Hannah's parents and her sisters, who they have custody of. And he was doing his weekly visitation or phone visitation with her sisters, my daughter's sisters. And once he found out my daughter was there, he became very explosive on the phone. My daughter got upset and left the area. He was mad, essentially, that she was there and he didn't know about it and couldn't have access to her. We have other things have happened between Mr. Hannah and his family, his parents, and his other children, to where we have felt the need to get security cameras in our home for our own protection. Any interactions that happen with Mr. Hannah become very explosive and very mentally and emotionally abusive. After my daughter returned home from the vacation with her grandparents and sisters, Mr. Hannah sent her, it was during the vacation, he sent her a couple different voice recording text messages, totaling about 10 minutes in time. And he was doing a lot of rambling, mentioned that he had a plan to see my daughter, which is very concerning because he's not to be seeing her. Anytime my daughter has reached out to him in the previous year and a half, he has not responded to her. And now all of a sudden he sent her this long message talking about his girlfriend and her children. And my daughter, frankly, was very upset about it and said that she doesn't want to hear from him and doesn't want to hear about the girlfriend and the kids, and wishes that he would just leave her alone, essentially. So we have renewed this restraining order request simply based on not knowing at the time when I did this, we did not know where Mr. Hannah had moved to. I have since then been able to get his appropriate address and his updated license plate number. So the initial paperwork I filled out is not current because I now have that updated information, none of which he has filed with the courts, Your Honor. He has, in a separate case, refused to take a UA that is court ordered. Therefore, it's resulted in him not having access to his other children by phone call or anything anymore. And he's just proven to be very unpredictable and very uncooperative. And I just feel it's in the best interest of me and my daughter for him to not have access to either of us.
All right, thank you. And how would you like to respond?
Well, I'd like to be able to respond. I don't even know where to begin on that. The allegations that she starts with making are so unfounded that again, I don't know how to begin. But the UA that she talked about was never ordered. There was never a UA request. It was actually a hair follicle test, which is why you see this really crazy long beard right here, to making sure that I had the hair. I actually just cut the hair on the top of my head because I took the test 2 weeks ago. I'm waiting the results right now. That I could start off with what she's saying, but I really was hoping to be able to get in a declaration and be able to respond, because we were actually here it was the 10th of January in 2022, and that's when her first protection order she filed was granted. I had until the 5th of January to respond to that one, and I was served on the 5th of January, so I had a total of an hour and a half to respond to that one. And I was right by the courthouse, so I could have walked in and told them, but I wasn't able to, and it was hard. It was a challenge to hear this morning with the technical difficulties, even because the last time, if someone looked at the record, I wasn't in the hearing. You could see me coming on and off. It was like she was doing what you couldn't hear. I was trying to talk and nobody could hear me. And I got in right at the end and it started working. And he said, I already made my ruling. And that was it. That was all she wrote. So I was in full support of her getting the ability to come back on and be heard. But what's happened is when this whole smear campaign picks up speed, you get the snowball effect, and everything she just said, it's been damaging my family significantly. Me and my father are at odds because of this thing. There was an issue that day that I called when they were in California, it was because the previous week I had said, I can't talk to my daughters and pretend Presley's not there, which is what I was forced to do the whole time this protection order, which with no history of no threats, there's never been domestic violence ever, except for the criteria, which would list someone being emotionally abusive as domestic violence, which is what Ms. Kennedy's done with me for years. The alienation's been constant for years. We went to court in 2018. I was a petitioner and she was dating a sex offender. And I brought it to court, and ever since then I paid the price tag. So I would really like the opportunity to list my evidence. It has all documented. It's all extensively documented, and it's been devastating to not have a voice, to not have the ability to talk and say anything to it. And she's very good at what she says, but there's no. She filed the same thing against her second ex-husband, and they dismissed it because there was no credibility. I have the texts and everything of her admitting that she made it up. I mean, I can provide the court anything. If there's an investigator, maybe they could look into it. I'd pay for that. I'd anything possible. This has been devastating. I miss my daughter tremendously. That's why I was upset on the phone, because by the way, she's sitting over here. She's supposed to pretend she's not here, and that's not emotionally healthy for her. And it was, that alone was dismissive of her feelings, quite frankly. So that's where I came from with that. And me and my father's challenging relationship is really none of Miss Kennedy's business, but she's made it her business to the point where that's what she uses to get what she needs. And it's very, I wish I had the guardian ad litem reports in front of me from our actual investigation, but there's a lot to this case, a lot of history that is extremely relevant, and no one's ever heard it. So even the first protection order is an ex-girlfriend threatening to call her because she's mad at me, and that's what happens. And she makes up a story, and here we go. She's waiting for that chance years. I've got the emails. I wish I could. And my girlfriend, she's sitting right here, and she's asking if she could talk, but I don't know if she can. But everything that Miss Kennedy was saying about her calling at 3 and 4 or whatever time in the morning, it never happened. It didn't. She sent one message to Presley, and that was all it was. And then she told her not to contact her. This way it went the other way around. So there was no. The harassment idea is she likes to throw out these words that are extremely harmful, and the defamation is significant. I mean, I can't even begin to describe what this has done to my daughters. It's predatory at minimum, but it's a sly. I guess the expression I would use is.
Mr. Hanna, one more minute, okay?
Yes, okay. I'll finish with this. It's just, I would hope that I could get the chance to actually reply on paper and provide the court the transcript of facts, like real world facts that have happened, not just somebody's statement that does not have any credibility in anything she's provided to court anyway. And the refusal to take the drug test is a big allegation. It didn't happen. My hair was short to begin with. I had to wait for it to grow out. They wouldn't let me take it until it was 1.5 inches is what they required, they said. And that's about it. But some wolves wear sheep's clothing, and it's one of those things that I've had a heck of a time fighting off. So I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kennedy, you can respond if you'd like.
Mr. Hanna said a lot. I'll just stick it simple with, we did have a 3-day trial, Your Honor, to close up our custody agreement, as well as a guardian ad litem who had interviewed everybody that was involved in the case. And that clearly.
When was that you did that?
Oh man, that was, I think we concluded in 2016.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, 2018. I was 2018. I apologize. That concluded in 2018.
And the guardian ad litem recommended she goes with me. It was both
Mr. Hanna, it's Ms. Kennedy's turn now.
So we did have a 3-day long trial and a full report from a guardian ad litem, which Presley ended up in my full-time care. So that is all been out there. Everything has been more than explained and more than reviewed throughout that case. Since then, things have just continued to go downhill with Mr. Hanna. After this last restraining order that just came through, nothing in the paperwork said that Mr. Hanna couldn't have contact with Presley, our daughter, during phone visits, and he has repeatedly ignored any outreach that she has tried. So now she's at the point where she's a 13-year-old girl. Her dad has ignored her for 1.5 years, and she just is over it and doesn't want the contact with him anymore. So she personally has tried. He has blown that essentially with her, and now this sudden reach out that he did, she's not interested in, because all he wanted to talk about was how bad her grandparents were and how he has a plan to see her, which scared her, and how his girlfriend and her kids are looking forward to meeting her, and she wants nothing to do with that.
May I respond to this? It's hard to hear, because her restraining order, the first one she filed, the protection order, asks that I don't contact my daughter. She's listed right in the document, to not contact. She's trying to get me to go to jail. And I couldn't. It's brutal when she has her texting me and I can't respond to my daughter. I was the worst days of my life. Her birthday and Father's Day was exceptionally hard when she said to my mother, "Did Dad change his number?" And I could not reply to her. It's cruel, inhumane, it's sick. I don't know why you would file and ask for the parents not be able to contact their firstborn child, my pride and joy, and then tell the court now that I ignored her for a year. It's a twisted. That's the subtlety, though. That is the problem. That's been the problem.
Okay, we're not going to argue back and forth here. I'm going to make a decision.
I have so much evidence on this.
All right, thank you both. This restraining order focuses on mainly on Presley, but also, I guess, some concerning social media contacts. And those were discussed in some detail, both in the request for the restraining order and here today. Mr. Hanna made a lot of statements, but really didn't address the specific issues. And so I want to do two things. First of all, I'm going to grant a temporary restraining order that will be effective for up to 12 months. But I want to remind the parties on January 19th, I signed an order for adequate cause to allow the parenting plan to be revised between the parties. And so far as I can tell, nobody's gone to court to have a hearing on how the plan should be revised. And so I think that needs to happen. And I think when that hearing occurs, then the court can revisit the restraining order, because based on whatever evidence is there, there may be some contact or some way of having contact with Mr. Hanna develop. Either of you can set that for hearing. What you would do is note it onto the universal trial setting docket, which is Wednesday at 1 p.m. But I noted that I had agreed to that order back in January, but it looks like nobody went to court on it. But today, the motion in front of me is for a restraining order, and I am going to grant that for 12 months.
The January motion you're talking about, Your Honor, I'm supposed to have a copy of. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Let me tell you that you're not to disturb the peace of Ms. Kennedy or Presley. You're to stay away from them, which means you cannot come within 500 feet of their home, their vehicle, their workplace, their school, or their daycare. I guess daycare wouldn't. And you're not to hurt or threaten either of them.
Yes, sir. Okay. The January thing you're referring to, is that something I get in the mail, or you mentioned something that no responded to, or something like that?
Well, yeah. Actually, that was a longer time ago than I thought. It was January of 2022.
Okay.
I entered that order, but nobody brought that to hearing. That order still stands, the order for adequate cause. So if either of you want to bring that to a trial, you can do that.
Is it possible to get a guardian ad litem type situation, or is that what they would do that? Perhaps.
We can do that. Do you remember who was appointed before?
Yeah, it was Tina Day. It was extremely professional, and I
Okay. Ms. Kennedy, any objection to me reappointing Tina Day? No. Okay. All
Your
right.
Honor, this is Tina Day.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I appreciate that, and I wish nothing but the best for the parties, but I'm not currently able to accept any new cases. I am off the registry currently and will be until probably September or October.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Day. Okay, then we're going to give you 3 names, and we'll determine who we select from those. Names are Amy Turnbull, Ann Height, and Twyla Corey. The reason we give you 3 names is if you know any of these folks and don't want them to serve as the guardian, then you can strike them. Ms. Kennedy, anyone you don't want out of that list?
I don't think that I recognized any of those names. No, sorry.
All right, Mr. Hanna, anything?
Yes, Your Honor. There's someone I've known for a lot of years, Ann Height, I would probably say would be biased. So I would probably ask that she not be appointed. But,
okay. All right. Typically, we go to the first name, so I'm going to appoint Amy Turnbull as the guardian.
Can I ask Ms. Day's reports? Could I ask her if they could have the reports from the last time? Is that possible? I could contact her. Maybe I'll reach out to her, perhaps. But I don't have anything.
Ms. Turnbull should be reaching out to both of you shortly. Okay. And here she is on the screen. If you want to give them your work phone number, you're mute.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you both. And again, I would encourage you to set that hearing. Mr. Lawrence is here. Is Aaron Gilbert here? Thank you. All right. Mr. Lawrence, have you had a chance to meet with the parties recently?
Yes, Your Honor. On Friday, April the 28th, I was at the clerk's office and I observed Mr. Gilbert there filing documents. And I got a chance to ask him about the status of his substance abuse evaluation. And what I understood was that that was one of the documents that he was filing with the court. So I looked in Odyssey yesterday to see what the evaluation said. And it turns out that all it was just a hair follicle exam that was administered on April the 18th. And it was a 5-panel test that came back negative for the drugs tested. So we still don't have our substance abuse evaluation.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, any response to that?
I do not have a drug problem. I passed the test. Throughout this whole thing, I've been famous at work. It was all over the internet. I had to go talk to HR. They've already gave me a drug test. I've already took your hair follicle test. There is nothing. I submitted the police report. The sheriffs that showed up out at the house that night said there's allegations that did not make sense that she made against me. All of this stuff. I have did everything. I am so tired of fighting for my rights here and stuff and being forced to go prove this, go prove this, go prove this. You've got a drug test. You've got everything. I have lost the most important thing to me, my visitation rights with my kid. I never took my kid up to the house when me and Brenda weren't getting along. I would not put my kid in harm's way, but I am the only one that lost visitation rights to my kid. I do not understand. You've got a drug test. I've been drug tested through work. No company's letting you work for them when it's all over the internet and stuff. I've continuously missed work and come into court nonstop. There was never any charges filed. There was nothing.
Mr. Gilbert, I did see the negative test, and I'm glad that that was negative. Let me ask you a couple questions. If I were to order initially a supervised visit between you and your son, is there somebody that you would feel could serve in that capacity?
Why do you want to humiliate me that bad?
I don't want to humiliate you. I want to make sure your son remains safe.
My son has got no violence on my record. No, nothing. We've got kids at the house all the time. I've never did anything wrong. There is nothing in my background. I do not understand how all this is coming about. I mean, to have to stoop to visitation rights. I'm a father. If you look back for the last 5 years, I did nothing but fight for my rights to visit my kid. I was told through the courts and everything else, if I moved to Toutle, even in the guardian life report, I would get more time with my kids. I stated to the court, as soon as I moved to Toutle, she would move. I moved to Toutle 2 months later. She sold the house that meant so much to her and everything else and stuff and moved out of Toutle. I lost every other weekend. And now on nothing, visitation rights. I pay my child support. I do my thing. My kid is the world to me. I would like to know where this is coming from.
It's coming from a sworn statement that was filed with the police department by your current wife.
Did you read?
I need to make sure that your son is safe. And initially, I'd like to see supervised visits.
Will you please read the police report I turned in?
I did read it.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. This is Gilbert, and I'm just jumping on. I was never notified about this court date.
There was one set for last week, but the judges changed the schedule, so there was a document sent out changing the hearing date till today. So I apologize you didn't get notice, but you're here now.
Oh, I mean, I didn't get notice about it last week either, so I don't know anything about what's going on.
Well, we weren't here last week. Let me start from the beginning. Mr. Gilbert has turned in a hair follicle test that is negative. Mr. Lawrence has indicated that he hasn't done the substance abuse evaluation that we had discussed. I turned to Mr. Gilbert and asked if there was somebody who could preside over supervised visits for a few weeks, and he had a very strong negative reaction to that. So since Ms. Gilbert, you're here now, I will let you respond if you'd like.
I mean, I just feel completely unprepared. I didn't know anything about any of this. Does he not have to serve me? Yeah, I mean, I honestly just feel completely unprepared. I would definitely still want him to do the evaluation. Supervised visitation would be good. I guess I don't know what the proper protocol is.
You seriously think I need supervised visitation, right? You don't think I love my kid more than anything?
Well, apparently not more than
Let
drugs,
me
but
let you know, just a minute. Your attitude today is causing me more concern than anything. Okay.
thank you. That's exactly.
I am wanting to protect your son, and you're yelling at the judge, and that is completely inappropriate and makes me more concerned. All right. I'm trying to figure out a way for you to see your son in a way that I know everybody's going to be safe. Now, you can work with me on that, or you can continue to yell at me. I don't care which, but I'll tell you, if you yell at me, we're not going to get anywhere. Now, want to work with me on that?
Yeah, sorry, I was not yelling at you. This is the most hurtful thing I've ever been through in my life. Anybody you pick for supervised visitation rights, go right ahead.
I understand we don't have an SUD assessment. We do have a hair follicle test that's completely negative. It gives me some relief that Mr. Gilbert probably does not have a drug issue. But at this point, I think the initial visits need to be supervised and see how they go. Ms. Gilbert, is there somebody you would feel comfortable with supervising those visits?
I mean, just the problem is that, we just don't get along so great, and our families don't. I can't even think of anybody who would be I can't think of the right word, but just a third party that would have no affiliation. Yeah.
How about Jeff Erskine?
The thing is, I mean, I haven't even had any time to think about it. I don't even know if supervised, my rationale is that John is angry, and so I do not believe he would hurt Max. I just know that John would hurt me. And so I don't know. I know that anybody on his side would lie. I don't know. This is just a mess.
Excuse me, Your Honor, but she just said I would never hurt my kid.
But you would hurt me, and hurting me if your main goal is hurting me and you have to hurt Max to accomplish that, I believe you would. You would not just hurt Max because, you don't like him. You would hurt him to get back at me.
All right, let me go back to Mr. Lawrence. Any thoughts on this, Mr. Lawrence?
Well, Your Honor, in my dealings with this family, one of the things that I've noticed is that Brenda, John's current wife, was always a staunch supporter of his. For her to go out on the end of the limb like she did by posting what had happened that day was a real departure from that relationship dynamic. And it appeared that she was very afraid of his behavior during that time. Mr. Gilbert has not even admitted that he has done anything wrong. Just because the police didn't charge him doesn't excuse the behavior. And so at this point, I see him minimizing all over the place, and which gives me great concern. And this resistance to getting the substance abuse evaluation, knowing full well that it's going to interfere with his visitation with his son, it appears that not getting the evaluation is more important to him. And so I have some real concerns. I know that both the families or really have had issues over the years. If we're talking supervised visits, I think the only option would be professionally supervised visits through reconnecting families.
All right. I want Mr. Gilbert to have a way to see his son.
Thank you.
I understand he hasn't done the substance abuse evaluation. That order will remain in place and needs to be done. It sounds like that really the only way we can do this is to order supervised visits through an organization called Reconnecting Families. And Mr. Gilbert will need to contact them, set up a time for the visit. Ms. Gilbert, you'll need to cooperate with bringing your son over for those visits.
When is that, Your Honor? What place do I have to contact?
You'll need to call an organization called Reconnecting Families, tell them you're setting up supervised visits, and work out a time that will work for both you and Ms. Gilbert. Ms. Gilbert will probably bring your son over a few minutes before you get there so she can leave, and then you'll show up, you'll have your supervised visit. Mr. Gilbert will need to pay for those visits. I'm going to allow one a week for 4 to 6 hours. Hopefully we can get that done, and let's come back here in a month and see how that went. So we'll be back here on June 7th.
Your Honor, can I please ask what else will there be so I can get back to a normal life, feeling like a father again?
We'll see how the supervised visits go, and then we'll make those decisions.
Can I ask Keith one thing?
Why don't you call him afterward and talk to him? Okay. All right. So the evaluation order remains. You can have visitations that are supervised through Reconnecting Families, one visit a week for 4 to 6 hours, and we'll be back here on June 7th.
Can I just revisit the I was not served anything for this? Is that not a problem?
I'm sorry that happened. That was through the court. Do you want to come back next week and discuss this again? I'm not sure it's my decision's gonna change. But if you feel you need,
I mean, I guess not necessarily, but even, I mean, the Reconnecting Families and all of this is just so weird and a lot for Max to go through. And yeah, I just wish I would have had more time to think about it, but I guess this is what we're going to do.
let me invite you to call Mr. Lawrence, and I think he can answer all of your questions about that. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. So everybody be back here on June 7th. I didn't see anything else filed. We're going to just check the status of this case. Mr. Lawrence, maybe you should start us.
Your Honor, when we last met in court, Mr. Llewellyn had proposed a third party to do the supervised visitation, and Ms. Burkett was to contact her and decide whether or not she would be in agreement to allow that. However, a major issue has arisen. In my last report, I made mention of a car crash that Tessana Burkett was involved in. And Mr. Llewellyn called me about a week ago to let me know that she is being prosecuted for that car crash. So I went on Odyssey to review the documents there. And what happened was on March the 21st of 2021, she was involved in a car crash where she crossed over the center line and hit another car head on, where there were two individuals in that particular car that got severely injured. The state patrol did an investigation. They found that her breathalyzer reading was 0.10. So she was legally drunk. The other issue was that she had 3 times the legal limit for marijuana in her system at the time of the crash. She is undergoing a trial on the matter on June the 27th of this year, which is essentially 2 months away. So we're in a situation where Shane has always been the, quote, identified patient, unquote, because of his mental health issues and whether or not he is stable. He has since gotten on appropriate medication, and he is holding down a job, and I've not heard of any incidents for almost a year now, and he seems to be doing very well and trying to get reintegrated into his son Abel's life. Tasana now, who has been the one who has been unsure about Shane's progress and whether it'll hold, is now facing potential jail or even possibly prison for this particular act that she did. And it was just a miracle that she didn't have Abel in the car with her. He could have been killed. And so it appears that we have 2 months to try to potentially see how visits between Shane and Abel can be increased and given more time, potentially even overnight visits, because there's going to come a time where Ms. Burkett may not be available for several months. And so I'm very concerned that we have to fast track this, and that Ms. Burkett's objections to supervisors is going to be a real problem here. The court, she was living with her boyfriend in Hillsboro, Oregon, and I don't know anything really about this guy. In the past, she has lived with her parents in Woodland, and her parents were always an option to take care of Abel. But if she goes to jail or prison, I don't know what the plan ultimately is, and Shane is asking for more time. So it appears to me that we need to get moving on trying to reintegrate these two together and then see what happens the end of June.
Let me hear from Ms. Burkett first, and then Mr. Llewellyn, I'll hear from you.
I first of all would just like to say that I have been completely sober from marijuana and alcohol for over 2 years now. My monumental mistake of my life, and I've completed my treatment plan. I go to counseling once a week, and I'm doing absolutely everything that I can to stay on the right track. That said, we have not moved to Hillsboro. We are staying here with my parents. Abel's lived here most of his entire life. My parents love him so much, and they're more than willing to be involved as much or as little as we need through these difficult times in our family. Mom and him have a wonderful relationship. My parents are both retired, so they're able to be available for him any time of the day, drop-offs, pickups, anything that goes on. I again would just like to say,
your trial is set in June, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
I do also think that removing Abel from my parents' home permanently or all the time would be detrimental to him, seeing as how this is his home. I mean, this is his bedroom. He has all of his things here. He loves my parents, and he hasn't really known another home. So.
Okay. Mr. Llewellyn, how would you like to respond?
So this has definitely been a curveball. Being Abel's father, I would like to have him as much as possible, and I would still like him to see Tasana's parents, his grandma and grandpa. I do not know a place that would work best for visitation, like staying over the night. But I would, as I say, having him in my life is the most important thing to me, and I've been doing extremely well. I've been on great medication. I'm working full time. I'm the happiest, the best I've been in my life in many years, and I'm no longer like lethargic and zombie-like from medication. I have full spark of life, and I'm doing extremely well. And again, I don't know where the visitation could go aside from Marie's house, who we had asked for. And again, major curveball. I don't know where to go with this, Your Honor.
Ms. Burkett, you have an objection to the proposed guardian. I think it was his landlord at one time and maybe somebody else. Or I don't know.
I,
What situation is.
I spoke with Marie Woodage. She seems like a lovely person. She's very, very kind. I don't have any objection to that. I do have just a concern that I would hope that she would be unbiased, that she has known Shane his entire life, and I would hope that she would be forthcoming with the information to me as well. So,
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I hear Keith Lawrence said at the end of June, we'd see how the visitation was going. I'm wondering if at the end of June that we could potentially, I would be moving into an apartment of my own, and I know that it's still the end of next month, so we've got roughly 2 months, but I'm wondering if everything goes well by the end of June, if I'm able to get my visitation with Abel at my own apartment unsupervised. I know that's a lot to ask on tests in, but I am doing extremely well. I have many people that can attest to that, and it'd be a request of mine. Like I say, I'd still let him see his grandma and grandpa whenever he wanted to, and I don't know how to pick up and drop off would work, but we could certainly work something out if you're willing to entertain that.
Have you been seeing Abel so far?
I've been seeing him every other weekend at Reconnecting Families, and I see him 2 hours every other weekend, paying $80 per visit. I was supposed to get 8 hours with him, but I did not have $320 a month to pay extra, so they cut my time in half.
And if we go with Ms. Woodage, do you know what her availability is?
Honestly, not entirely sure. I was under the impression that weekends she's available, and I was going to ask that I get Saturdays as well as, well, every Saturday as well as Wednesdays from roughly 5:30 to 8:30. And I was thinking Saturdays like 10 to 4. In the past, I was seeing Abel every weekend for 6 hours and then every Wednesday for 3 hours, totaling 30 hours. And now I've been at 4 hours at Reconnecting Families, doing extremely well. There's not, as far as I understand, anything negative to say about me in the Guardian. I mean, in the social workers notes, Beth Fellows, whomever else. But yeah, my request to be to, at the end of the month, potentially be able to have Abel at my own place.
All right, Mr. Lawrence, any additional you want to add?
No, Your Honor. I understand that the court may have some concerns about the stability of both of the parents. Shane has, I think, jumped through all of the hoops over the past year and a half that we have put in front of him. Tasana, this kind of comes out of the blue, and I'm very concerned about it, but we won't know for sure where we're at until the end of June, whether she's got a plea deal or is convicted or acquitted. I think Shane's proposal is reasonable, that if we could have Ms. Woodage provide supervised visits and increase some of the time to see how those go, so that when we get to June, we can have a clear picture as to whether overnight visits are in the offing or not. And I'm in essence kind of pleased to hear that Tasana did not move to Hillsborough, that she's still with her parents, because that has been the home for Abel for all of his life so far. And so there's at least some stability there. But I would encourage the court to allow Ms. Woodage to provide the supervision, increase some of the time, and then we can revisit this maybe mid-June before the trial and see where we are.
Your Honor.
Just briefly, then I need to make some decisions. Go ahead.
Right. So after the visitation at Marie's and when we come back to revisit it, as I had requested about potentially getting Abel for overnight stays at my own apartment unsupervised, if that were to be entertained, I would say, or ask, I'm sorry, if I could have Abel 50% of the time, and then his grandma and grandpa, Tessa's parents, could have him the other 50% of the time. I think that would be a fair split, because I have lost out on, unfortunately, a lot of my son's life, and I would like to regain those grounds, and I am in the stable position to do so.
Okay. We're gonna have to make some adjustments here. I think Mr. Lawrence's concern that we need to ramp up the visitation with the father, because if the mother's not available, there's going to be more weight on the father, and Mr. Llewellyn needs to be prepared for that. So I I'm going to allow, and this is if, first of all, I'm going to allow Ms. Woodage to be the supervisor. If she's available, I would like visits every Saturday from 10 to 6 and every Wednesday from 5:30 to 8:30.
Connor, can I say something about that?
Go ahead.
Usually Abel is in bed by 7:30 on Wednesdays just because it's a school night, but I do understand if we need to do that later.
To respect that, could I move that to 7:30 rather than 8:30?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so we'll have him returned at 7:30.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So he's not up too late. All right, second, I had approved a move to Hillsborough previously. I think in light of what's going on, I'm going to have to suspend that approval. I don't think it makes sense for Abel to be moved at the end of kindergarten and then his mom not be available for him if that's what happens. So we need to suspend that until we know what's going on with the criminal proceeding. And in terms of the request for unsupervised visits, I'm going to need to take that up in June. I want to see how these supervised visits go first. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I'm going to do this kind of in two steps. The first time I want us to come back will be June 7th at 9 o'clock. We'll see what's going on with the criminal case at that time. And likely
Could you
another hearing after that. We think that's going to be
please repeat that, Your Honor? I was getting a phone call and it muted you.
Sure. The next time back will be June 7th at 9 a.m. And then I'll probably set another hearing, but I want to check in on the criminal matter and determine when that will be.
Okay, so just the June 7th, and then on June 7th, we'll plan the next?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
When will the next visit be exactly? Is it going to be?
Well, I would like it this weekend if Ms. Woodage can do it. So that would be May 6th.
Okay.
And then the next time, we won't do it tonight. I think that's too short notice. And then the Wednesdays will start on May 10th. Okay.
Okay.
So this weekend, if Marie is available, we can start the visitation there?
Yes.
Okay.
From 10 to 6, if that works. Okay.
Your Honor,
If she's not available, then I would hope the parties can work together to find another 8-hour slot for the visitation. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said starting the Wednesdays when, Your Honor?
May 10th. Mr. Lawrence, did you
Your
have?
Honor, yes, I have an issue, Your Honor. I have completely used up all of the time that I have been previously allotted on this matter. It sounds like I'm going to be needed for a little bit more yet. May I be approved for, let's say, another 5 hours?
You may be approved for that.
Thank you.
If you want to submit an order, I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
All right.
Your Honor,
Yes.
as I am unable to speak with Tess because of the restraining order, I am wondering, I was going to ask for at the Reconnecting Families if my mother would be able to go to Abel's birthday, because his birthday is on Sunday. If I see him Saturday, that's when I would be celebrating. And Tessana is allowing Abel to stay the night at my mother's, which is about 15 minutes away from Marie's house. And it would save Tess the trip to go pick Abel up and take him down if my mom could take him to Marie's and at least join the first part of the visit while we celebrate his birthday.
Ms. Burkett, any thought on that?
Personally, I do kind of like to pick him up after his sleepovers with Nana, just to check in with him and, see how everything went. And then we usually go to the visit after that. He usually spends a night with Nana every 2 weeks or so right before his visit. Maybe she could follow us down and join there.
Okay, I'm not going to do the direct transfer. I'll have Abel go back to Ms. Burkett to be with her for a little bit. Okay.
That sounds perfect, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you both. And we'll see you back here on Mills matter. I want to check in on the
Sounds good.
visits that I ordered, and then we have to make a decision about the vehicle. And Mr. Mills has filed a declaration requesting full custody. I think I want to go to Ms. Day first, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have had contact with both parents and I've been able to observe dad's visits in part, obviously not the whole visit. And I haven't found any concerns. I don't have any concerns about his visitation with the boys. The home is clean and appropriate. The children are bonded to him. They seek him out. He meets their needs. And I don't have any concerns about that. I think the visitation should continue. I wouldn't have any objection to that being Friday to Sunday, provided dad is not working. If dad is working, I think it should remain Saturday to Sunday. I know there's been some discussion between the parents about that when dad had to work for a little bit on Saturday. And he asked the children to be dropped off at their regular time with his sister. And I don't have any objection to that. That's perfectly fine. The children know the aunt. And I think that's appropriate. I was able, yesterday I received the CPS reports that I've been waiting on. Those do indicate a very past history of domestic violence. So I think it's appropriate for an anger evaluation to occur within the next 60 to 90 days for father, just so that I have that information and if there's anything that needs to be done. It is old history, but those do line up with some of the allegations that mother has made. The difference being that it was like almost 5 years ago, 4 years ago. So it's not a recent history, but I think that alleviates kind of that accusation and kind of addresses that. Do you have any questions, Your Honor?
Not right now. I probably will in a moment. Mr. Mills, let me hear from you next.
Well, I mean, you read my declaration. I don't believe Rebecca is very emotionally stable. She makes very rash decisions and is impulsive. She has defamed me. She has lied. She has embellished on her declarations. She's doing everything she can to make this case something it's not. This is just a divorce where two parents didn't get along. We have had our problems, and it is time for us to move on, but she shouldn't be using the children as a weapon to hurt me. I mean, she met a new boyfriend and within 2 weeks was trying to take the kids and all their presents to his house on Christmas Eve to have Christmas Eve there and Christmas morning. That's not appropriate. She just met this guy online and within not even 2 weeks was trying to do that. She's trying everything she can to remove me from their lives and have this new life with her new boyfriend as the new dad. She's had those multiple motions for reconsideration when the children are in no harm's way. She's gotten the kids on state health insurance when I have excellent health care, but she has failed to provide me with the birth certificates that she took. She claims to have lost them every time I have asked, but they got to be somewhere. She was able to apply for welfare. She was able to get them on health or on the state health insurance. And the photos that she submitted saying that I beat her were me defending myself. They're small bruises of me grabbing her to stop her from hitting me, and she's held on to them for years to use as blackmail. And she's doing everything she said she would. Every time I've brought up before in the past that I wanted a divorce, this is basically what she said she would do. She said she has all this evidence of them saying, who are they going to believe, big you or little me? There's no marks on me. You have no photos of marks on you. And this is just not what she's making it out to be. I do work for a living. That does complicate things with the children. However, I do have adequate childcare with my family. The kids will never be watched by anyone that isn't their family. And I do work for a living. Rebecca is entitled. She's applied for welfare when her new boyfriend pays for everything she has. She is a licensed cosmetologist. She can work. She's able to work. But she's just trying to manipulate the state and manipulate this divorce hearing and just to get her way.
All right, thank you. Ms. Mills?
Hi. Is it my turn to talk?
Yes.
I think that Sam uses a lot of not very kind descriptive language like manipulative, liar, which is harmful. I don't know what exactly I have manipulated or lied about. I do know that in Samuel's very first filing, when he asked for full custody, that is the first time I have ever heard him speak any negativity towards me as a mother. It's the only time he has ever spoken about full custody. And the only reason that he filed that temporary order in the first place was because I found evidence of drug use in his home where my children could easily, there was a morphine 30 milligram pill in a plastic baggie. My children could have easily grabbed that. He has SARMs, if you know what that is. It's basically like legal, not for human consumption steroids estrogen blockers, things like that on his nightstand where my children can just untwist the cap and take it. Those are not locked in a safe place. That is a huge concern. The only reason he asked for full custody was, I believe that was a vindictive attack on me. He's never expressed a want for full custody or even 50-50. Previously, yeah, we have had a tumultuous relationship. And every time Samuel left, he would leave once a month, which I'm sorry, that is unstable for the children. That's a pattern of his, leaving once every month for nights, days, blocking me, providing no financial support, totally neglecting the children and leaving them in my care. And he would say, oh, I just want them on my days off, and I'll get it. I just want them on my days off. So I think that him asking for full custody is not being truthful. I think that during his visits, his mother has been there. I mean, almost for the entirety of the visits. My kids come home and they share it. And I know from experience that when grandma's there, it's an experience. She makes them breakfast, she entertains them, she takes care of them, and which is great from a child's perspective. But his mother was abusive to Samuel as a child and neglectful, which is very concerning that now she is almost taking the lead in his parenting time. And also that he's asking for full custody. And then in his latest declaration, he's backpedaling and saying, I am asking for custody or at least equal time. So he's already backpedaling. He doesn't want full custody. He's never wanted full custody. This is an attack on me through the children. He can't even handle the 2 days a week right now without his mom being there or relying on a babysitter.
May I respond to that, Your Honor?
I'm losing time with my children to
That's
leave.
why Ms. Mills finished. Go ahead.
I'm losing time with my kids so that they can be with a babysitter. If it's family or not, I'm losing time. He's not missing any time with them. I'm the one losing time.
Okay. Mr. Mills, briefly, and then I want to go back to this day.
To address the at least halftime, that's just because I understand that in these circumstances, the father getting full custody is very rare, and I just want as much time with my children as possible. And referencing my mother coming over, my mother comes over for a few hours because she misses the kids. She's not taking the lead. I'm not sitting back and doing nothing. We're engaging with the kids. She comes over to see them because she hasn't seen them very much these past few months.
Ms. Day, have you observed Mr. Mills' mother being present when you were at his house?
So when I did the drop-in visit, it was a drop-in visit. It was unannounced. Mr. Mills' new girlfriend was there, and I thought it was her mother, but maybe it was his mother. They were there, but the children were not engaging with them. The children were engaging with dad. They were playing with him. He was reading to them. They were in the kitchen doing their own thing. So I did not observe that somebody else was taking the lead in this. I would point out to the court that both of these parents have moved on relatively quickly to new partners and introduced these very young children to new partners, new living circumstances, all the way around. That is where I see the instability. I don't see the instability in any other situation that they are not both equally culpable in. And I've been very frank with both parties about that. Children are very impacted by these sudden changes, and then these new partners that are involved. Both of these parents have some pretty strong emotional feelings right now, and I understand that. But there's nothing that I've found so far that would tell me that either parent is not able to parent their children during their time. I think father should have residential time. I think mom should have residential time. I don't think there's any reason that the paternal family cannot provide care if father has to work during a small portion of that time just for continuity. I don't see any concerns with that. I don't find that. I also don't find anything that would concern me to the level of drug use and drug abuse going on in father's home. I've been walked through his home on a couple of occasions now. I've not seen anything present in his life, in his person, or in the home that would give me that concern.
Do you work Friday nights, Mr. Mills?
I work Friday during the day. So my work schedule is Monday through Friday, and then I occasionally have a Saturday shift, which tends to be a shorter shift, but it's because I work construction, and it's just if there's work to be done. So that those Saturdays aren't guaranteed.
What time do you typically get home on Friday?
Around 5:30.
Okay. I think I said this before. I think you're both good parents, and the concern is you don't get along with each other. But I've read, you both have written things that impugn your ability to be a parent. That is completely disputed by Ms. Day, who says both of you are fine. And that's what I'm going to accept. I think you both love your kids. You just have the issue with each other. we may get to an equal time with the children, but I think we're a couple steps away from that at this point. I'm going to expand the visitation from Friday at 6 or 6:30, whenever you can pick up the children, until Sunday. And I don't know when we ended it on Sunday, but whatever the end time is.
6, Your Honor.
All right, to 6 on Sunday. So I'm going to expand it to that. And I think I'm going to leave that for a couple months, and then we'll look at it, and then we're going to have to make some adjustments. I don't think it's appropriate permanently that the father get all the weekends and the mother get no weekends. I think that needs to be shared. But right now, I want to make sure that the children are spending time with their father. So I am going to order every Friday through Sunday.
And I hope to have my report done within 30 to 40 days at the most. So once that's prepared, then I think it would be appropriate to see where things are at.
2 months from now would be, let's say, the end of June. So that would be June 28th. That's when we should be back. The other issue, I think, is we were going to address, I think it was a Kia automobile that Ms. Mills wanted to use, and she wanted Mr. Mills to pay for. And if I'll start with Ms. Mills, if you want to address that issue, and then I'll have Mr. Mills address it. If you could do it fairly quickly, I'm running over on this docket already. So go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can we backpedal just briefly? I am so concerned as to why we have completely skipped over Sam's use of illegal substances. He's been arrested for that and didn't learn his lesson at all. Why are we not looking into that at all?
Ms. Day has been to the house. She's observed Mr. Mills. She has not brought any concerns to the court's attention. So it has not been ignored, but it does not appear to be an issue right now.
And we can't do a drug test just for the safety of my kids and peace of mind. If he does not have a drug issue, then it should come back clean, right? And then I'll feel better about my kids. We can move past that.
Let me ask Ms. Day, any response to that?
I don't have any objection to father providing a hair follicle test that would verify that he's been remained clean and sober for the last 90 days, or clean. There's not an issue with alcohol that I'm aware of, but I just haven't seen anything that would lead me to that. Generally, that kind of information isn't just taken off of one person's report. I realize that he has a prior conviction. That's quite some time ago. I don't see any evidence of drug use currently, and I would obviously continue investigating that and bring that to the court's attention if I had any concerns between now and the time that we finish this case. So I have no objection, but I don't have a reason for requesting.
I'll handle it this way. I'll have Mr. Mills do a hair follicle test. If it comes back positive, well, he'll have to initially pay for it. If it comes back positive, he will pay for it. If it comes back negative, Ms. Mills will pay for it. And if she's not able to pay for it, then it will be a credit towards any kind of payment Mr. Mills makes. Also, Ms. Day indicated she wanted to have an anger management evaluation in the next 60 to 90 days. And I'm sorry, I skipped over that. I think that does make sense given, I guess, the remote history. So I will order that also.
And I have a question. We had talked about domestic violence counseling, where I would go in and talk about my experiences, and then they would counsel him according to that, which I think it's so important to do that for him and his future relationships. And the fact that he has moved on, I know I have too, but the fact that there is another woman in a relationship around my children, I think that DV counseling, even over anger management.
I'm going to go with the anger management evaluation, and we'll see where that goes. Okay. Do you want to address the Kia?
Yeah, I have driven that vehicle since we got it, I believe, in 2019. Samuel has always paid for it, and he has always said, like I said, we've had a tumultuous relationship, and every time we've thought, oh, we're going to divorce, he has always said, oh, you'll always have a vehicle. You'll always have, I'll make sure you always have a car, until I moved on with someone else. And then it was, give me my car back. I need the car back. I'm not paying for it. Which I think is just vindictive. I do have children that need to be driven around, and he has always paid for it. And I think he should continue to. He took the insurance off of it. He says that he didn't, but his car is insured still. So mine was removed from insurance. I've had to pay for a flat tire. I've had to pay for the registration on the car. And currently it has a dead battery that I haven't addressed because I haven't known who it would go to. And I can't afford to keep paying on this car if I don't know if I'm going to be keeping it.
Mr.
Mayor.
Mills?
So her boyfriend just bought her a new car. Every single time we've done the pickups, she's not driving that car. She's driving the new car that was bought for her. The reason there's no insurance on it is because the insurance lapsed because I couldn't pay for it. And I can't even pay, like I can't pay for it now. I can't pay for that insurance. I can't pay for the car now. Financially, things used to be different. I used to bring home more money. I don't bring home as much now. And also, I was able to pay for that because she paid other bills. And so she's saying, I always paid for the car, so I have to pay for it. Well, she always paid for my other bills. Is she going to keep paying for those?
All right, I'm going to allow the Kia to go to Ms. Mills, but she will be responsible for the payment on it. So both the car payment and insurance and whatever maintenance.
It is
are
behind 2 months right now, Your Honor. So I need 2 payments for it.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
There are 2 payments due for that car.
Okay.
And I have a question. I can't afford car payments. If I did, I would go out and get car payments. So I know that in the past, Samuel has talked about just turning it back into the bank. He tacked on a $5,000 loan onto that car loan. So if he's not going to be the one paying for it, then I don't want it.
All right. Well, that's a choice. If you want it, then you'll need to pay
Your
the
Honor,
payments. If you
he
don't want to
only
make
wants it if I'm going to pay
then
for
you
it.
can leave the Kia with Mr. Mills.
Okay. Can I have a couple of days to get that back to him, or how does that work?
Yeah, you have it now. Let's get it back to him by Sunday. Okay.
Okay. And I also want to state that my boyfriend bought himself a new car. He didn't buy me a car.
Okay. All right. I think those are the issues for today.
Your Honor, I just have a couple things I want to bring up now to be addressed at a different hearing. If I may.
Go ahead.
We have accumulated $5,000 in credit card debt. I'd like for her to pay her half of that.
Okay, just a minute. Before we go into all of that, if we want to handle more property issues on a temporary basis, I'm going to have to set another hearing. I can't address those today because I haven't read anything about it. I was here to adjust visitation and the car. That's what's before us today. Do you want me to set a hearing in a couple weeks to address other issues?
Please, but I have one that's really simple. I just need her to remove herself from the PUD. She is the primary person for the PUD. And when I asked her to do it, she said it's not her problem for me to deal with it. So I'm not the primary on my own electric bill. And she refused to give me any of the login information. I was eventually able to get new login information, but she's still the primary and can go in and change it anytime.
All of those issues I'm going to have to put over. And I'm going to do 3 weeks. And Mr. Mills, I want you to file a declaration listing all of those additional issues and what you'd like to see happen. You need to do that in like a week and a half. Give it to Ms. Mills so she has a chance to respond. All right. And we'll come back here on May 31.
It's Brittany Chapman. I have to go pick up a kid from school who is super sick. Is it okay if we go next? I hate asking that.
All right. We'll take the Chapman and Chapman matter then.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Is Mr. Chapman here?
Yes, I am.
All right, let me get to my notes on that. All right, Mr. Chapman filed some tax forms with the court. I'm not sure that I completely understood them, but his issue here is he's claiming, and the current I think child support order gives him a credit for one of the children, which was apparently $2,000 this year. And so he's wanting that much credit against the contempt and judgments that I previously entered. Ms. Chapman, do you want to respond to that?
I mean, no, I didn't get $2,000 per kid. So I stated that at our last hearing. So, I mean, no, I'm okay.
Well, did you take a $2,000 credit for each of the children?
Did I get one?
When you did your taxes, you claimed the 3 children, right?
Yeah.
And do you know how much of a credit that was? How did that play out on your taxes?
I'm not sure exactly how much it was per kid because I only ended up getting 2,600, I think, back. So there's obvious that I didn't get that much per kid because I barely even got that much total.
All right, Mr. Chapman, any response?
Yeah, on page 3 that I copied, it says child and other dependent tax credits. It says in 2022 on my picture $2,000. Then the earned income credit for 2022 $138. So if you go to the very last page, it shows that I would get a return of $2,222 for my refund. And in the very first page shows that I owe $778 now since I wasn't able to claim the one kid Brody. So that's where I'm coming at right now. So now that I was put in this situation, there's $2,222 and the $778 that I have to pay now. I think so close to $3,000 to be taken off my amount because I'm having to pay $778 now for my taxes.
Okay. Yeah.
Any response, Ms. Chapman?
Yeah. Okay. So, he was not put in any situation that he didn't put himself into or bring himself into. Also, the money that he owed the IRS the year prior to this one, that has nothing to do with me or anyone else other than him filing exempt on his work forms, the W-9 or whatever that form is called. He went exempt on those multiple times so his paychecks would be bigger so that he would have more money for drugs and alcohol. So therefore, him owing the money to the IRS the year prior has nothing to do with me. So the $748, I think last time your actual question that you wanted to know and him to submit was how the difference in the $2,000, like his amounts didn't add up. With Brody and without, like his totals just did not add up. And him owing, like, so once you get to the submit your taxes part of it, your amounts change. So it just depends how much all the things, all the tax logistics of that I don't know. He very well probably wasn't even going to get the whole $2,000, especially considering he owed the IRS still, and it all would have been given to me regardless because of the $24,000 in back support he owes me.
So, Your Honor, it breaks it down all for you on 2022, the year 2022 on my paper that sent you. You can break it all down and see both incomes of both outcomes of if I claim Brody or if I do not. And she's saying that it will go to her no matter what. Yeah, but then my balance that I owe her already, that will stay the same. So that's what I'm asking for. So that can get dropped off that balance. I'm not asking for her to pay me cash money. I'm asking for that to be taken off my balance so I don't have to pay another $3,000 to her that she took from me already.
Oh my
God. I need to make a decision here, and the current child support order does give Mr. Chapman one of the tax credits for the children. And that apparently was used by Ms. Chapman. So there is a monetary effect on that. I'm not sure that it's $2,000. And I can't make that out from the documents that have been presented to me. So what I'm going to find is that Mr. Chapman is entitled to a credit of $1,000 against the amount that's owed to Ms. Chapman. I know that's in excess of $13,000, but whatever's owed, there'll be a credit of $1,000. And Ms. Day is here also. Last time I had ordered, I think 30-minute video visits, and have those occurred, and how have they been going? Mr. Smith, you want to start?
Video visits have been going really well. Things have actually been really good. Me and Dustin talk on a regular basis through text and phone calls. We have numerous video visits. Me and his mom, actually, we have had quite a few phone calls and really working on our co-parenting and trying to build a friendship for Dustin. It's been really good. I've made it to all Dustin's soccer games. Me and Ashley have been in contact and getting Dustin set up for tutoring for school. She's really been, and I'm really thankful. She's been really letting me be involved in stuff like that. So I think things are going like really well right now.
All right, thank you. Ms. Fleischman, you're.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with how things are going right now. The only thing I want to say is, you know, if things were to move forward with supervised visits or any type of in-person, I would like it just to be Nathan and him.
You'd like it to be what? Say that one more time.
Nathan and Dustin just alone. Like he has a girlfriend. I met her. She seems like a nice person. You know, I'm all for it. But as for visits right now, I think, you know, I don't want anybody other than who's supervising and Dustin and Nathan. That's all I ask. But everything has been great. We've been communicating. So.
Is there someone you would trust supervising the visits?
I'm okay with, we used his brother Rob before. I'm okay with that. I don't know if Rob's available. You'd have to ask Nathan.
Yeah, my brother Rob is available to do that, and he's more than willing to.
Okay. Ms. Day, any comment on this case?
No, Your Honor, I'm glad to hear that things are moving forward in a positive manner. I have no objection to the uncle providing the supervision and moving things forward. I'm very pleased with the parents that they're able to start communicating. I think that's best for Dustin, and I think and I'm hopeful we'll see a positive outcome moving forward.
All right.
And Your Honor, me and Ashley have talked in depth about her wanting just the one-on-one visits with Dustin, and I completely understand. And like Tina was saying earlier, bringing new people into stuff like this can be a lot on a kid. So I completely understand. And I apologize to the court for the past. I was in a bad place and in a very toxic relationship, and it was affecting my judgment, what was going on. So I apologize to the court and to Ashley.
Glad things are going as well as they are. What I'm thinking, and I guess I'll have some input. I'm thinking of a supervised visit every other Saturday from 10 to 4. What I'm concerned about is that going to interfere with some sports activities?
Yeah, Dustin plays soccer, but I'm okay with like Nathan going to the game and then just taking him from there, even if it's like an 11 to 5 or something. And I'm sure that would be okay. One thing I did want to ask though, with Nathan, I believe he said he's getting a new schedule, so he will be off on the weekends now. But I just wanted to ask when that was going to go into effect.
So I work at NORPAC. We work 12-hour rotating shifts. But I was offered a position, and I was just offered this position yesterday to work straight days. It's a management position, but that wouldn't take effect until probably mid-June. But that will be happening where I will have straight weekends off, and I did that so it'd be easier with visitation and stuff with Dustin, because my work schedule has been such a detriment to all this. It's been really hard. So.
Do you work some Saturdays then?
I do, Your Honor. Like I work next Saturday days, but the following Saturday, I'm off. I'm off 2 Saturdays a month right now.
Oh, that works then.
Well, what I was going to order then was every other Saturday. So we may have to align those with the Saturdays that you're off.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I was going to allow you to see him in any public area where he might be. I'm thinking if he's got a soccer game or other sports event, you can go and attend those in addition to your visits. Visits need to be one-on-one with you, with your brother Rob supervising, and then continue the video calls that you've been doing so far.
And she's allowing me to attend the soccer games. I've made all those games. So.
Okay, good. All right. Ms. Fleischman, does any concerns about that order?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Turnbull. I think we're waiting for your final report.
Yes, Your Honor. And I have essentially completed my investigation. I'm ready to complete my report, but I have not received payment from either party. I have directed them to file a financial declaration if they're unable to pay me. I understand from Mr. Blacklaw that he may have done that yesterday. I have provided the documents for Ms. Myers, but I have not heard if she's or seen if she's done that yet. So I'm not sure where we stand on that front.
Well, let me just ask them now. So, Mr. Blacklaw, are you currently working?
Currently, no. I'm in between jobs.
When do you start the next job?
That should be next week, I believe.
How much are you going to be earning at that job?
I should be around 16 to 17 an hour.
16, 17 an hour?
Yeah.
And how many hours a week are you scheduled for?
I think initiation in the beginning is probably at least 20. So, but I have side jobs if that counts as anything.
All right. Ms. Myers, can I ask you about your income?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, I am still in the process of trying to find a job. I have had a couple interviews and still waiting on calls back from them. As it stands right now, the paperwork is currently in my glove box, getting ready to go into the courthouse today after the meeting today, and I was going to go drop it off. Is there a specific spot at the courthouse I have to go drop it off, or?
For Ms. Turnbull?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's just a financial declaration and motion so that you have the documentation that you need.
Okay. That would go to the clerk's office and would be filed under this case. However, just to help everyone out here, after hearing from both parties, it appears they're currently not working. So I will change the order to make it county pay.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I should make any additional decisions though till I get Ms. Turnbull's final report. So what day do you think that can be ready?
I can have it filed probably by Monday and have it sent.
Well, that means we can
maybe Friday
on the 17th, May 17th.
Yeah, I might be able to have it to you Friday.
Well, I want the parties to have a chance to read it. And
yep, 2 weeks. Yep, 2 weeks is good.
All right. I got a declaration from Mr. Blacklaw's mother expressing a difficulty in the transporting the child. But I'm not going to make a change right now since we're coming back in 2 weeks. I want to see the report and then we'll probably make some adjustments at that point. And I'll take that declaration into consideration at that time. Okay. All right. So let's come back on May 17th then. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. All right. I dismissed the minor guardianship. So we're here to at least determine an initial parenting plan between Ms. Davenport and Mr. Reeves. And Mr. Reeves, let me let you go first on what you think would be appropriate, and then I'll hear from Ms. Davenport.
So I'm not exactly sure what to do for the parenting plan. I mean, I've expressed my concerns. I'm just mainly concerned about, I haven't talked to her, really know exactly what progress has happened and stuff. I'm just concerned with her emotional well-being and how she handles things. Just concerned for my daughter in that sense that, if she's throwing a fit or something and Cassandra gets too stressed out or something, the way she reacts. So, I mean, I just kind of put in what, as much time with me as possible, but I just kind of was going to leave it up to the courts to decide. I had suggested supervised visits and stuff. I just don't exactly know where she's at, just, with the protection order and stuff. And I don't feel completely comfortable. And, I would like to say, even if it's not as much time with her right now, that, we can down the road, my goal is for us to go 50-50. But just with me right now, I'm not necessarily comfortable just given all the past and, just worried that, she might not be able to handle herself and get too overwhelmed.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Davenport?
Yes, I understand your concerns. I have reactive ways with you. We both have to each other. But when it comes to my daughter, I would never hurt her. And you, of all people, you know that. And I believe that she's safe with you and me. And my concerns with you is the stability. I'm not trying to attack you or anything, but this is about our daughter. I just moved out. Adeline had just gone through a big change for her of losing her parents. And then you move in a known drug user. And within a month after that, that's not like appropriate. I don't feel like it is for a child going through all the change. I feel like you didn't put her emotions first. And then you eventually had Alexia leave. You kicked her out. She had to leave, March 15th or 16th. And now you're currently with another girlfriend. And it's like, what you do with your life is none of my business, okay? I'm also seeing a man, and I have been for a while, but our daughter has not met him because that takes a lot of time. And I feel like it's just, he's got enough change going on right now. He's a very decent man, has never had any addiction issues. He believes in God. He's really a good man. And eventually I would like you to meet him before I introduce him to our daughter, because I respect you as her dad. And she deserves parents who respect each other and put her first. And I really want to work with you. I'm sorry, I'm so emotional. Like he said, emotional. But I want to work with you, Greg. I really do. I want to address your concerns and just work together. And I've told you that before all of this happened. And I was serious about that. And I understand child support is really hard. But I do believe that if you're struggling with buying a pair of shoes, then I can take over and vice versa. I believe that we can work together and we can help each other out for our daughter. And I need to make sure that you can provide her stability. Also, your work schedule, Marlena is not a safe environment for her. There's statements in here, even from your ex-wife, about it. And that they smoke pot in front of our daughter. Our daughter is now saying PUSSYFARTS. She's cussing. She's just got very inappropriate behavior. And she's not getting that from me. And I don't think she's getting that behavior from you either. And I just don't believe that Marlena is a safe place. However, and if I had her during the week, I would be able to take her to school, and then she could go to daycare after school, and she would have that structure and stability. And then you could see her right when you get off work, up until bedtime, or we could figure this out. I do not want to keep her from you because she needs you just as much as she needs me, and she is safe with me. Also, Holly and Beverly are on Zoom. If it's okay, if they could quickly say something, the people that are around me on a daily basis, that way it gives you a little more reassurance. So I don't know. I've changed a lot. I've had to face myself and the way that I reacted to people, and you. And I am sorry for the way I've treated you. I had a lot of insecurities. I couldn't trust you, and I'm sorry for that. But it's just, I can't take any of that back. And you matter just as much as I do. I don't really know what else to say.
Okay, let me hear from Mr. Reeves if he has any response.
Yeah, I admit the moving in before was a rash movement, and I did try for a while to get her out, and then we broke up super early on, and then she said she would help out with rent, but that really never happened. I still think she's a good person, but yeah, it was not a good fit. I am seeing a different girl, but I did wait a while for her to even meet my kids. She even was about that with her kids. I looked into her. She's got her life together. She has her own place. She's worked at her job almost 19 years. She just seems like a really good person. So I really, thought long and hard on this one. And as far as Marlena, I do trust Marlena, but I have arranged other care for while I'm at work. My cousins said that they would take her Monday and Tuesday. Marlena asked about Wednesdays, and I did not want to tear her from her auntie. She has,
right. Yep.
been with her auntie for so long. I didn't want to tear that. And then my mom has her Thursdays and Fridays until I get off work. So I, have arranged all that. And
Sorry.
So yeah, she stayed the night with Ian and Nikki last night. And, I've been keeping up on, trying to, the doctor's appointment. And I did get some numbers for the ultrasound stuff because she keeps getting those bladder infections. Yeah. I've been trying to keep up on all that stuff.
That's because of improper care and diet. Remember, we had her on the phone.
Okay, Ms. Davenport.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just don't know really where I'm at and where my trust isn't like that. I just, there's been a lot that's gone on between me and you. And I'm just trying to do whatever is right for Adeline. I mean, like I said, I still do concern that your emotions might get the best of you. I just kind of, since I have not been in your life and we've had this protection order, I kind of am leaving it for the judge and his observations and the guardian ad litem and whatever he decides, and that we will work from there on, how much time and what goes on. And then, like I said, eventually my goal is definitely 50-50. So I just am leaving it in the judge's hands on what he decides.
Okay. So back to the stability thing though, she's having to stay different places all throughout the week when she could be with me and have stability.
Ms. Davenport, I think I'm going to address that.
Okay.
All right. So both parties know I've seen you multiple times through the minor guardianship matter, and we've been on this docket a couple times. Both of you have grown a lot. Both of you have really turned your lives around since I first met both of you, and so I want to commend you on all of that. And I'm very happy actually that we're here doing a parenting plan. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the supervision requirements for the visits with Ms. Davenport. Okay. I understand that there's a feeling there may be a risk to that, but I think this is the time to take that risk, and we'll be checking in from time to time to make sure things are going okay. Okay. My recollection is under the minor guardianship, Ms. Davenport, you had Adeline from, was it Thursday to Sunday?
No, I get her Saturday at 6 p.m. till Monday at 6 p.m.
Okay. Okay. So my thinking today is I was going to leave that in place and remove the supervision requirement. That I know that doesn't give you as much time as you want with Adeline. I want that to go on for a month, and then I want to look at expanding the time after that. But I want to make sure the time without supervision goes well. I'm going to have Mr. Reeves be the primary custodial parent. Just so you know, I think it does make sense for Ms. Kennedy to see Adeline at least once a week. So I think that's good. So the first visitation I'm going to order will be from Saturday until Monday. I wonder, well, no, I want to leave it at that. And then I want to get back together on June 7th. And so you both know if everything is going fine, I'm going to expand that. I don't want Mr. Reeves to lose every weekend, but I want Ms. Davenport to certainly get more time with Adeline after that. But I want to make sure we can take this step where there's no supervision and that goes well.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. So transition time is hard for our daughter. I believe that it would be easier if we could do pick up and drop off together. If it works for Greg, that we meet at my mom's. That way there's someone here that's, can witness, he could bring someone too. Anyway, if we could directly hand our daughter off to each other and in this time, and if there's any problems with that, which I don't believe there will be, if
Mr.
we could do that.
What you're thinking about that?
I'm a little hesitant. I mean, I guess if we, kept it short, I just don't want to get into any arguments and stuff. I have that protection order. It could work out. I'm just a little, worried that it,
And again, we're taking some risks here. Okay. I'm going to relax the protection order to allow you to do a direct handoff. I would like it to be, if it's convenient, at Ms. Davenport's mother's house. If there's to be no discussion about anything other than, this is when she had her nap, or this is what's going on with her. If it goes beyond that, if there's any concern, then we're going to snap back to what's in the protection order right now.
And is there any possible way that, like, if sometimes, as long as someone's present or something, that it's not at her mom's, just because, her mom's house is all the way across town from where I live. Sometimes, I'm willing to do that a lot of times, but sometimes it'd be nice if I wouldn't even care if her mom was there, if we met in a different area once in a while. Sometimes it works out fine, but does it have to specifically be at her mom's, or just to have somebody present when we?
I would like somebody present. I guess that makes sense.
What if we either you pick up and I drop off? If my mother and I go to your place to pick her up on Saturday, and Monday you pick her up from my mom's, would that be easier?
Probably Saturday would be easiest for me to drop off at your mom's. Monday would probably be easiest just to pick up for me, just because Saturday, I don't got anything going on. It's a weekend. Monday, it's like I just get off work and all that stuff and have to make dinner and stuff like that. So,
Well, that
yeah.
for the Monday drop off, then to drive to Mr. Reeves' house.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
that would work.
Okay, let's
Thank
do
you.
that. All right,
And
we'll
I
be
was
back here on
wondering-
June 7th, and we'll make some adjustments. Okay.
What time on the 7th?
See,
9
Jason
o'clock.
Palmer, and it looks like Jessica Palmer is here, and Ms. Hyde is here. Have both of you had a chance to read Ms. Hyde's report?
Yes, Your Honor, I have.
Okay. Let me start with Jason Palmer. Do you have any comments about the recommendations in the report?
I do. Okay. Okay, so I have two concerns. My first main concern, I feel like, is the obvious. I'm concerned about this Patrick individual and the background there. And I'm also concerned about whether or not, if they truly are a couple. I don't believe that they are not seeing each other. And that's right at the moment is my biggest concern. My other concern that I'm having is that they're still talking about me behind my back in front of the kids as well. And that really actually, it hurts Jonathan and Lily more so than me. It hurts their feelings because, you know, there are people talking about me, about their father. So I would really like that to stop. And that's really it for concerns. The only other thing I wanted to share is the plan that I have in place for myself. Because I know there's concerns about where we're living and what have you. And, you know, I am super tired of living in this motorhome, truly. I was hoping to be moved out of this sooner. I had started a new job. Unfortunately, I started getting garnished, and I just wasn't able to pull off a move. And then once the garnishes stopped, well, I ended up losing my job. So right now I am working part-time for CPI, and I've got active plumbing jobs going. And at the moment, I'm working on putting together a business plan. I am going to try and start my own plumbing company. I have a rough idea of that, but I'm kind of waiting for this, you know, custody hearing to be done so I can concentrate on putting together a business model. That's right now my plan. It's a little bit of a rough outline. The only other thing I'm doing is I've signed up for DoorDash so I can have some sort of fill-in when I'm not working for CPI. So I just got auto insurance to make sure I'm covered for that. I do have a valid license. So it's just a matter of kind of getting going here. You know, I've been trying to deal with all of this, which has been, you know, pretty stressful for me. So,
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay. Let me hear from Ms. Palmer.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
There are definitely a few things that I would for sure like to address about Mr. Palmer's statement. He just said that he just got auto insurance. The only thing that the judge that signed my protection order was able to do for the kids, being as they were not currently in my care, was to state that he had to have valid license and insurance. By his own words, he just admitted that he just procured insurance recently. So he has been driving the kids for over 18 months without auto insurance. The judge stated that he absolutely could not drive the kids around in his Ford truck because it never had a factory back seat or seat belts. He was continuing to drive them around in that vehicle for months before he procured another vehicle. The judge stated that he could not drive the children under the influence specifically of marijuana. She went on to add that he could not be under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs, which are not the concern. But by his own words, in admission to the guardian ad litem, he is still smoking marijuana daily. So he did not have valid insurance. He was still driving them in a vehicle he was expressly told was not going to happen. And he was doing this while under the influence of marijuana. And I am extremely concerned about those three things right there. I have had current auto insurance for my vehicle since October 7th, 2021, and I have not had any lapse in coverage on my side. The second thing that I would very much like to address is I am not in a relationship. I do have a very close male friend, and yes, I am aware of his background. He has never met my children. My children do not know his name. And if they do, it was not from my end, because the few times that I have actually had contact with my children, Patrick was nowhere near. Patrick is very well aware of what his terms and conditions are of his legal obligations. And for him to come in contact with my children at any time is a direct violation. He is not violating his obligations in any way, shape, or form. And he has regular check-ins with his DOC officer. They have found that he is not in any violation. So Mr. Palmer can assume I am in a relationship all he wants, but the fact remains that I am not. I don't know that I will actually be in a romantic relationship again for a very long time due to the traumas that Mr. Palmer has put me through. And in my guardian ad litem report, I did, in fact, tell Ann Height that I feel safer in Patrick's presence than I did in Mr. Palmer's presence. And there are several reasons that I feel safer among Patrick than Mr. Palmer. One of those reasons being that in every time that Patrick has driven me, he has never exceeded the speed limit to well over 100 while taking his hands off of the wheel to smoke weed. Mr. Palmer has an extreme temper and extreme road rage. He has chased vehicles down before and gotten out of the car. He has terrified my children and myself while driving. Mr. Palmer has an extreme anger issue, and he has no problem screaming at anyone and getting in verbal altercations with people. My children have been present for him threatening people on numerous occasions. I would like to address the fact that I did not find this out until after Ms. Height's report was published, when I had my visit with my kids, that my sister-in-law had been living in the trailer with the kids. And this is a 23-foot trailer. There is one queen-size bed and there are 2 twin beds. That is it. When I put my daughter down for bed for the night, she fell asleep immediately. My son came out hysterical 30 minutes later, red-faced, sobbing hard, could not catch his breath. And I asked him what was wrong. And he said, "I'm not used to sleeping by myself anymore." At that point, I asked him why he was not sleeping by himself. And his exact words were, "Somebody else is sleeping in my bed now." I said, "Baby, who's sleeping in your bed?" And he said, "My Auntie Angie." And that was it. He refused to say anything else on the subject. That was the one and only time my sister-in-law's name was brought up. But I feel like it is highly inappropriate that my sister-in-law had been moved into a 23-foot motorhome and my son had to give up the bed that was his to sleep in the same bed as Mr. Palmer. My son Jonathan will be 13 this August. I feel like that is way too old for a child to be sharing a bed with a parent. There was no reason for this when my son had a bed in the first place.
Okay, I need you to wrap up in a couple minutes, please.
I would very much like to show you the pair of shoes that my daughter showed up to my house in August of 2022. The exact date that I had them was August 12th, 2022. I have been paying Mr. Palmer child support since April of 2022. The exact amount of child support that he had received since April from April to August was $1,924. And this is the pair of shoes that my daughter was sent to me in. I can stick my entire hand into this shoe. When I picked my daughter up, she could not walk in these shoes because of how far the sole is detached. She had to pick up her leg about 6 inches so she did not trip on the shoe itself. And the first words that she said to me when she got into my car was, "Mama, can you take me to Walmart and buy me a pair of shoes? Because this is embarrassing." So I have extreme concerns about how my children are being taken care of, where my child support money is actually going. if he wasn't able to buy her a pair of shoes for several months on end, despite the fact that he was getting income from me. I would also like to bring up the fact that I called my children's doctor's offices today and their dentist offices and asked when their last visits were. My kids are seen at Happy Kids Dentistry. The last time that they had a teeth cleaning was 4/6 of 2021. The last time either of them had a treatment there, Jonathan's was 5/24/2021, and Lily's was 4/6/2021. Jonathan's last doctor appointment was October 4th, 2021. Lily just had one a few weeks ago due to an ear infection, so hers is more current. She had a doctor visit 4/12 of 2023, but prior to that visit, she had also not had a doctor appointment since 2021. These doctor visits and dentist visits were arranged by me before I had left in September of 2021. So in over 2 years, my children have not gone to the dentist. They have not gone to a doctor's appointment. And Mr. Palmer has admitted that he has a very, very limited schedule. So I'm extremely concerned with his lack of work, why there is not time to make sure that my children's basic medical needs are being met.
Okay, I need to go on and hear from Ms. Height at this point. Okay, thank you. Ms. Height.
Good morning, Your Honor. I filed the report that I'm sure you've had a chance to look over. I do have a couple of additional issues that I would like to very, very quickly address for Your Honor. I've had some conversations since I filed that report. One concern on the part of each parent. First of all, I really enjoyed visiting with the kids. They were friendly and forthcoming, and I felt like we had good visits. Most recently, there was happily a visit that happened between mother and the children, I believe on the 28th of April. It was the first time she'd had time with those kids since Christmas. And it was quite an ordeal to get it set up, but it finally was done. My concern with that is this. At the Christmas visit, if you note in my report on page 8, at the Christmas visit, Lily reported to her counselor shortly after that mom had spent a great deal of time with some other people. I don't know who that was, but that she felt neglected, and she ended up playing with her toys and her brother and not really feeling like she was attended by her mom. 4 months later, this is the first time that mom has had a visit with these kids. And again, mother had a guest in the home during part of that time. A former neighbor was there, and the children overheard mom and this former neighbor disparaging their dad in front of them, and that was concerning to them. In addition, one of the children overheard a phone conversation, and I know this is very sketchy, but I feel it's necessary to bring to Your Honor's attention. One of the kids said they had heard mom on the phone with some man. They did not hear the conversation, but they knew that it was a male that she was talking to. Whether or not this was the gentleman that's addressed elsewhere in the report, I don't know, but I did feel like it was something that was of enough concern to me that it should be brought forward. The other issue is that there had been someone staying in the children's home, the aunt, and I did speak with Mr. Palmer about that, and he assured me that she is no longer there and she will not be there again. I was very frank with him about that was not appropriate, and that no one else should be staying overnight there in that small area. So that brings me to my recommendations, and I would like to ask the court to indulge me just for another minute. I know it's been a long morning, but on page 12 of my recommendations, in recommendation number 5, I address that during the visits with mother, there should be no overnight guests in the home and no other visits for longer than 2 hours. I believe that the phrase "for longer than 2 hours" should probably be stricken. I feel like the kids need some time to reconnect with mom, and having anybody else there at this time is inappropriate. And obviously there's other recommendations in here about not talking disparagingly. I think sometimes adults get to talking and forget that kids can hear. And that also needs to not happen at all. Furthermore, on the next page, page 13, recommendation number 13, I recommend that Jordan maintain a safe and sanitary home. I would also add to that recommendation that he have no overnight guests at all. There just flat out is not room for such a thing. Family or not family, that just should not be happening. So I would ask the court to consider changing those things if you are going to do anything with the recommendations that I have. My concerns, I think, are pretty clear. My recommendations reflect those concerns. The only other quick thing I would say is that I recommend a third-party phone app. They can't seem to agree on a human third party. And I would like them both to know that our Family Wizard does have, I believe it's $100 a year. There is a free app available, and I cannot remember the name of it at this moment, but I'm sure that they can figure that out. There's a free third-party phone app that they could use. So in a nutshell, that's my statement for you this morning, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. I am running somewhat late right now, and I want some additional time to look at this, and I want to give actually both parents some additional time to comment to me. So what I'd like to do is put this over a week. Would you both be available next week to discuss this further?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Ms. Palmer?
Anytime I can do that.
Yes, Your Honor. Please tell me a day and a time.
It'll be 9 o'clock. I'll try to get it to it sooner than I did today. Okay.
Your Honor, is there anything particular that you'd like from me, Your Honor?
No, I'd like you to be present though at the time.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. Ms. Looney?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to note that the state is involved as to child support. We will be unavailable on the 10th, so we would just ask that no issues regarding child support be discussed at that hearing.
Do you want me to set a subsequent hearing, or do you want to note one up?
We can note one up if it needs to be addressed.
I'm only going to address primary custodial parent and visitation at that time.